Sorry, we do have a lot of freedom about what we say, although you can't go and I think you can't discriminate against people for certain religious or disabilities, and I think that you can't, participate in hate speech, which is the extent of the freedoms or limitations that we have, I think, in this country. So I'm not sure exactly where we're getting with the question. You're looking for, you couldn't make. What's that?
The question is, where is the line?
Well, you couldn't make a game, I think, going out, encouraging people to, for example, the Cronulla riots. If you made a game that encouraged people to go out and riot and, go out and indiscriminately attack people of, some ethnic group, I think that would be termed to be hate speech, and then, it would be illegal at that stage.
And yet Romper Stomper gets made, right?
I don't think that was encouraging anyone to do that. It was,
No, but it's about that, and yet...
Yeah, you can make something about it.
A game is not about it, it's about being it. I think that's...
Well, it depends how the game is presented.
Yep.
I think a lot of it always... Sorry. I was just going to say, I think a lot of it comes down to the classification board members at any particular year and how sensitive they are. Like, they really are the line.
I was going to say that games aren't games are about things. I mean, I think Chris Crawford said, you don't make a game about how stupid George Bush's policy is. You make a game about his foreign policy where you play it. Like the gerrymander game, where you play it out and you see the consequences of his policies, and that's how you learn how stupid it is. And it's because games offer that game mechanic. That allows you to see the cause and effect of actions, and that's how they can inform about ideology rather than just making an essay.
Well, they need America's Only Quagmire edition or something, and then you could understand it.
We're really in trouble. America's Only.
Send more men.
Yeah.
Yes? Do you think that there's an increased level of media sensitivity about the subjects of games? Because I remember there was a big deal about American science propaganda device. Yet there are numerous titles in the 16th era that I remember playing in the early 90s about much the same thing. In the sense that you're about about games about Gulf War or about games of terrorist operations, like cartels in South America.
I think America's
Nobody made a big deal about it.
Yeah, but now it's the actual government or the Department of Defence funding it.
It's made as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly a big deal, but I'm sure that it might be a private company in the sense that it's cashing in on war. I think it would still have been quite interesting again.
Kuma Wars gets very little media, and that's exactly what they do.
What is that?
Kuma Wars?
Mm.
Does anyone know Kuma Wars?
On that point, does Halliday comment about the Iranian controversy of Kuma War?
No idea what it is.
No, you'll have to comment for us.
They released they released an issue a couple of years ago about sending in special ops since Iran shut down their nuclear operations and kidnapped their scientists.
Was it an American scientist or something like that?
Pardon?
Was it an American scientist who wanted to defect or something?
No, it was an Iranian scientist who had been kidnapped.
Okay. I think I know.
And some Iranian student organisations found out and were outraged and started making their own sort of game response about defending from that operation. And it set up quite a bit of discussion on the phone calls between people of different groups and opinions.
Can I just say excellent? Awesome. That's what I want to happen.
They should have all just played Counter-Strike. One side could be the terrorist, the other could be the guy defending them, and they could have chatted in the middle of the game. And
Can I just explain for people who don't know? Kuma Wars make game levels about stories that have recently been in the news. So they put them into kind of rapid development. So 6 weeks after it's been in the news, then you can play the military episode. So I'm assuming that was a true kidnapping then.
I think it was just when it was more of a speculative.
A speculative thing, yeah.
American mindset.
are working on these ideas. Yeah. And because of that, Primal Wars is quite controversial. They're quite controversial in the games industry because sometimes their games aren't that good.
I'll just a quick point to make on that. I say excellent because, you know, I've got young brothers, 14, right, but they're not out there reading CNN every day. They're more likely to get their information about the world through games. And if they stumble upon that, that's great. They're actually going to learn on their own on that and not have me, who, you know, clearly has enough, you know, that I attack them anyway about their ideologies. So I think that's a fantastic, that's 14-year-old kids' news week as far as I'm concerned. I'll go, yeah, cool play.
The problem with that is it's a very one-sided sort of, it puts itself as, you know, we're just letting you go through the situations, but every single situation is American soldiers doing this or American soldiers doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily, my brothers would know that it's topical. You know, they would not be lured in. But
You're actually talking about the dialogue between the two game makers rather than...
not only the dialogue, but the actual products themselves, where they'd go, oh, there's more to this than I thought. And, yeah, I think giving people credit as well, that, you know, you present it as one-sided, you know, we have these things called sarcasm, you know, and irony, you know, you do actually pick up on that at some point, so.
They might not have that in the game, though.
No, unless there's an irony meter on the side.
Take the question in the centre far back.
Just wondering how much, has libel ever come up as an issue in any of these projects, or are we not at that level yet where these things haven't got that level of exposure, or someone hasn't put out something that necessarily is misinformed?
I'm not sure if anyone's ever sued for libel because of a game.
Yeah, or these underground things, like they're not, is that something that people should be aware of?
There is actually one case. There was a game in the late 80s, early 90s. Charles Barkley, you played Charles Barkley trying to defend Chicago. He was happy with that game, but 4 years ago, a group of kids made a game with RPG Maker. It was called Charles Barkley's Rescue Chicago Guidance. So it was like a sequel to the game they made, but they didn't have Charles Barkley's permission. So he sued them for libel rather than copyright infringement of his name,
Right.
because he'd get more money out of it. What I realised was they were 16-year-old kids.
And doesn't look like an arsehole for the rest of his life.
Regarding some church in Europe.
Yeah, yes.
So right now they're having some problems because the church did not want to be represented in the assembly.
It's ridiculous. I mean, Sony backed down on that. Like, this is the church that was featured in Resistance Fall of Man. I forget what cathedral it was. And they kicked up a fuss with Sony, and Sony backed down. But, I mean, it just sets a bad precedent if a company like Sony backs down, because that's a real place that exists in the world. And there's a long precedent of being able to represent real places in games. And, you know, so now it just makes life more difficult for everyone in that now there's a precedent of people and places being able to complain about their representation in games, whereas previously you would have just said, well, you know, forget about it, you guys, we don't need to ask for your permission. But
some of that's to do with the strange legality of representation of architecture, where it's the representation of architecture in a 3D form is covered by different laws than the representation of architecture in a 2D form, where you can photograph it as much as you like. But if you basically, because previously to represent architecture in 3D was to copy a design. So, but it's all really grey and dodgy, and yeah, and they shouldn't have backed up. I agree.
Just a quick question about you talking about game theory and education. Game theory and education has long developed for about 30 years now. In the physical world, it's used very strongly in K through about year 3. In the digital world, the Commonwealth and state and territory governments have just spent $100 million over the last 8 years in developing games for education. So in that side of it, there's a very strong movement.
do they have some games that they're deploying, or are they just trying to teach game theory in games?
4,500 were deployed on 30th of June last year.
And what areas do they cover?
K through 10.
No, what sort of topics do they cover?
Curriculum areas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you an educator?
I am, yes.
You enjoy that aspect? That the students seem to enjoy it?
Some they do, some they don't. Yeah.
So it depends on the quality of the game, I guess.
The early games are very poor, the later games are very good because the engagement's much stronger and a lot of lessons have been learned.
Fair enough.
I was just wondering about this, let's company Persuasive Games, that